Here is your script rewritten with fresh wording and the same meaning and length. Maybe this feeling isn't new to you. The doorbell rings. Someone wants to stop by, hang around, catch up. But something inside you tightens. A quiet unease, an internal resistance, a strong pull toward simply saying no. You don't dislike people and you hold no bitterness toward the world. But truthfully, having guests just doesn't sit well with you. You cherish your peaceful home, your undisturbed rhythm, your carefully guarded energy. If any of that resonates, take a slow breath, because in this video, we're going to explore something most people never dare to say out loud: the raw, intimate, and widely misunderstood discomfort felt by those who struggle when others step into their personal space. And no, that doesn't make you cold or antisocial. According to Carl Jung, the founder of analytical psychology, this tendency may point to something far deeper in your inner makeup. Today, I'll walk you through 6 Jungian insights that shed light on why certain people genuinely dislike having visitors, and why that isn't only completely natural, but may also signal a meaningful and valuable psychological process unfolding within you. Stay with us until the very end, because if you've ever felt ashamed for craving solitude, you might discover today that it has far more to do with your inner growth than any personal shortcoming. And before we get into Jung's insights, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. Do you feel unsettled when someone shows up at your door without warning? I'd genuinely love to know whether you recognize yourself in this. Have you ever wondered why some people come alive at social gatherings, parties, and casual home visits while you feel worn out just imagining it? Or perhaps you enjoy conversation and maintain warm relationships, yet the moment someone wants to enter your home, something inside you pulls back, as if their very presence begins draining your energy. And there's a real reason for that. Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, was the first to bring 2 now familiar terms into mainstream awareness: introversion and extroversion. But don't oversimplify them. Jung wasn't describing shyness or social confidence. He was describing the direction in which psychic energy naturally flows. The extrovert channels energy outward. They are fed by contact, by stimulation, by the external world. The introvert, however, operates almost in reverse. They recharge from the inside. Their energy source is stillness, reflection, and solitude. When they are overexposed to the outer world, long conversations, surprise guests, noise, constant interruptions, their mind begins to close down. Not from arrogance, but from psychological need. And this is the essential point. Not wanting visitors isn't a social failing. It is a direct expression of how your energy is wired. If you lean toward introversion, and many people do without ever recognizing it, then your home is more than a physical structure. It is a sacred refuge, a cocoon, a place where your energy rebuilds, where your psyche restores its balance. When someone steps into that space, even with the kindest of intentions, they disturb invisible threads you've spent the entire day carefully arranging. Their mere presence triggers your persona, your social face, and in wearing that face, you drift further from your authentic self. And honestly, that is profoundly draining. Jung said that introversion isn't a conscious decision, but a disposition of the soul. So when you fight against this inner current, all it produces is greater tension and fatigue. Some people might say, oh, they're just standoffish. They don't enjoy company. But what they fail to see is this: what looks like indifference or detachment is often quiet self-protection, a psychological shield, an invisible boundary the unconscious has built to preserve the inner world. Carl Jung called this structure the shadow, and the shadow is a part of you that you may not fully recognize, yet it's always present, quiet, tucked away, and directing your feelings, your responses, your most instinctive discomfort. When someone walks into your home, you aren't just opening a physical door. You are unconsciously allowing them into the space where your energy is at its most unguarded. And that is precisely where the shadow begins to stir. The shadow holds everything you've suppressed over the years. Sides of yourself you had to conceal, old fears, unresolved memories, wounds that were never spoken aloud. Picture this: someone rings the bell. You sit together, begin talking, and rather than feeling at ease, you feel an undercurrent of tension. A strange discomfort rises, and often you can't even name why. The truth is, that person's presence, their tone, their mannerisms, their energy, may be quietly brushing against a blind spot in your psyche, something you haven't yet faced, something living in the shadow. That is why Jung said, what you do not bring into consciousness will appear in your life as fate. And sometimes that fate shows up as social unease, an otherwise harmless visit that unexpectedly stirs irritation, a sense of intrusion, an almost physical impulse to ask the person to go. It isn't arrogance, it's your unconscious working to shield your inner wholeness. And there's something more. The shadow doesn't only carry darkness, it also holds buried potential, gifts, strengths, and truths you haven't yet found the courage to claim. The more you live on the surface, adapting, being agreeable, forcing social engagement, the less room your soul has to expand. So when you feel the pull toward solitude, when the thought of having guests overwhelms you, your shadow may be whispering, "Pay attention. You need silence, you need space, you need yourself." And actually listening to that takes real courage. Do you know that wave of relief when you finally walk through your own front door after a long day? The door swings shut behind you, you kick off your shoes, exhale slowly, and simply exist? In Jungian psychology, the home is not merely a physical dwelling, it is a symbol of the soul. It mirrors your inner condition. And when someone enters that space, they are not just walking into your living room, they are crossing into sacred territory. Jung believed that symbols reveal more about us than words ever could, and the house stands as one of the most powerful symbols of the psyche. It represents the self, the core of our being, the place where everything finds equilibrium, where healing quietly takes place. Each room reflects a different dimension of your personality. The bedroom, your intimacy; the living room, your social presentation; the kitchen, your emotional sustenance; the basement, your unconscious depths; the attic, your highest aspirations; and the front door. It marks the boundary between you and everything else. When someone crosses that threshold, your unconscious registers it immediately. Something from outside is entering. It isn't just a physical body, it is a foreign energy, carrying thoughts, unspoken tensions, unfinished stories. And if you are a sensitive, introverted person, or if you are on the path of individuation, the lifelong process of becoming your truest self, this can be enormously taxing. For Jung, the home was never simply a defensive wall against the world. It was an inner mirror. If you feel settled within your home, then something inside you is also in alignment. But if visits unsettle that calm, disturb the atmosphere, fracture the silence, perhaps your unconscious is gently telling you, this soul is still being shaped. Not every door needs to be opened yet, and that is entirely okay. Guarding your home also means guarding yourself. In depth psychology, honoring your limits is a foundational step toward healing and integration. So if you have ever felt guilty for not wanting guests, for choosing your own company over others, now you understand. You are not withdrawing from life. You are protecting the temple where your soul lives. Have you ever worn a warm smile while inwardly wanting nothing but quiet? Made tea, carried on pleasantries, played the gracious host while a voice inside kept asking, "When will this be over?" That sounds harsh, doesn't it? It makes you feel ungrateful, even unkind. But take heart, Carl Jung offers a clear-eyed explanation for what's happening beneath the surface. Jung called it the persona, the mask we present to the world. It is the social role, the version of ourselves shaped to fit work, family, relationships, even a casual visit. The persona isn't dishonest, but it is incomplete. It is not your whole soul, only a fragment, usually the one most acceptable to others. The trouble starts when you're forced to wear that mask inside your own home, the one place where you should be free to simply be. For people with a particularly developed persona, and this includes many introverted, perceptive, emotionally tuned individuals, a visit can be deeply depleting. Suddenly, you are performing, choosing your words carefully, managing your expressions, mentally tracking how long the conversation has been going, noticing the dishes in the sink, the lighting, the noise level. All of it consumes psychic energy, a great deal of it. Jung said, the persona is necessary. It allows us to function in the world. But when we confuse the persona for our true self, the soul begins to cry out. Perhaps this is the root of your resistance to visits. It isn't about disliking people, it's about feeling compelled to perform, to uphold a version of yourself that looks acceptable, even when all you genuinely want is peace. To be barefoot, quiet, staring out the window with nowhere to be. And here's something even harder to admit. Many people spend years never removing their persona, not even at home. They welcome guests, make the effort, smile sincerely, and return to themselves completely hollowed out, irritable, exhausted. But here is a truth worth holding, one grounded in depth psychology. You have every right to be fully yourself in your own space. You are allowed to decline visits, to say no to invitations, to be unavailable. Because every time you prioritize someone else's comfort over your own needs, you quietly abandon yourself. There are moments when all you want is your own company, not from sadness or drama, but because your soul is calling out for stillness. In those moments, many people feel odd, antisocial. After all, we live in a culture that applauds the constantly connected, the loud, the ever-present. But Jung saw it differently. For him, the urge to withdraw was often the opening of one of life's most significant journeys, the process of individuation. Individuation means growing into who you were always meant to be, not what society expects, not what your parents imagined, not the persona you've carefully crafted, but your genuine self, light and shadow together, conscious and unconscious, your essence and your truth. And this unfolding doesn't happen in noise. It happens in stillness, in retreat, in deliberate pause. That is why discomfort around visitors isn't simply avoidance or emotional fragility. It is your soul attempting to shield you, steering you away from distraction so you can finally hear what is being whispered from somewhere deep inside. Something within you is trying to rise to the surface, but for that, you need uninterrupted time alone. Jung stated it plainly. Loneliness does not arise from the absence of people, but from the inability to share what truly matters to you. And what could matter more than listening to your own inner voice? Yet how can that happen amid commotion, amid a guest who lingers, amid conversations that never touch the soul? The truth is, certain seasons of life call for deliberate solitude, not as escape, but as immersion. You don't pull back to disappear. You pull back to return more whole, more clear, more truly yourself. While the outer world demands your attention, social obligations, appearances, presence, your inner world is asking something else entirely. Stay a little longer. Don't open the door just yet. Take care of yourself first. Perhaps, as you've been listening, you've noticed something stir within you, a quiet recognition, that gentle, deep exhale that comes when someone finally gives language to something you felt for years but never knew how to name. And yes, believe it, this discomfort around visitors, this near-physical unease you've long dismissed as a personal flaw, is actually the reflection of something far more profound. If Carl Jung were sitting beside you right now, with his calm and penetrating presence, he might say, "You are not wrong for wanting solitude. You are simply heeding the voice of your soul, and that is rare." So allow me to share with you 6 honest, deeply human insights from Jungian psychology about people who prefer to be alone, especially within their own home. First, you are likely far more sensitive to the energy within spaces than you realize. Jung said the unconscious perceives what the conscious mind overlooks. Some people are deeply attuned to the psychic atmosphere others carry. A tone of voice, a glance, a silence, an unspoken tension, all of it registers. When someone enters your home, they bring not only their physical presence, but also their unresolved emotions, their stories, their inner weight. And you feel all of that as heaviness, as inner restlessness. And it is genuinely exhausting. Second, your psyche requires space. Jung understood introversion as a natural necessity for restoring order to the soul. Time alone in stillness helps the mind realign itself, but even a single visit can disrupt this fragile equilibrium. What others interpret as laziness is, in truth, your entire system gasping for breath. Third, sustained social engagement can sever your connection to yourself. Jung observed that the true self can only emerge in inner quiet. Polite conversation, constant presence, the effort of friendliness, all of it distances you from your most essential being. It isn't that you dislike people, it's that being with others often requires you to temporarily set yourself aside. Fourth, the mere presence of another can awaken your shadow. The shadow, Jung's term for everything suppressed within us. Memories, wounds, rejected aspects of our personality can be triggered by the most ordinary things. A casual remark from a visitor and suddenly you feel edgy or inexplicably unsettled. It isn't always about that person. It's about what they stir in you, a part of your psyche not yet fully integrated. Fifth, this withdrawal you sometimes feel may be the beginning of something profound, your own process of individuation. Jung said, individuation means becoming who you truly are. And that path begins the moment you stop performing for the world and start genuinely listening to yourself. When you recognize your need for time, silence, and distance, not as a flight from life, but as a way of engaging with it more honestly and more deeply. And the sixth insight, the final truth, you are learning at last to listen to yourself, to say no without guilt, to close the door without shame, to honor your limits without feeling unkind. Because each time you are pleasant when you have nothing left to give, each smile, each gesture offered from an empty well, you abandon yourself to fit into someone else's story, and you've realized you cannot keep living that way. It is time to honor your soul. Picture an elderly man with a long white beard, a lantern held in one hand, making his way alone through the dark along a quiet path. This is the classic image of the hermit, an ancient figure carrying profound meaning in Jungian psychology. Jung said the hermit is an archetype, a primal image, a universal energy that dwells within every one of us, whether or not we ever consciously recognize or embody it. But what does this have to do with you? With your desire to keep visitors out and remain alone at home? Quite a lot. The hermit symbolizes the inner call to retreat, toward wisdom and self-knowledge. It is the impulse that makes you close the door and silence your phone, not to flee, but to finally hear what is moving within you. The hermit lives in stillness because he understands that only in silence does the clearest light emerge. This archetype doesn't represent hollow loneliness or unhealthy isolation, but the courage to look inward, to face your own shadows, your doubts, your fears, and in doing so, to uncover your own inner light. No one else can bring you that light, only you can find it. And to find it, the hermit requires a sacred space. Often, that space is your own home, your sanctuary. If you feel that almost irresistible desire to turn guests away, to rest in quiet, it may be your inner hermit calling. He is asking you to slow down, not to lose yourself in the noise of the outer world, but to return to your core. Jung believed that answering this call is essential to emotional and psychological well-being. And you know what? Walking the hermit's path is also an act of quiet resistance against the relentless pace of modern life, against shallow connections, against the unceasing pressure to be accessible and sociable. It is an act of self-love, of tending to the soul. So the next time someone questions why you prefer solitude or why you decline visitors, remember the hermit within you. He stands there, lantern raised, reminding you, true light is only found after you've had the courage to walk into your own darkness. And needing silence in order to find yourself again is completely, wholly okay. Have you ever noticed how transformative deep solitude becomes when it is truly embraced? It isn't simply about being alone, it's about what you build within that aloneness. For Jung, the hermit was not a figure of sadness, not a social casualty. He is a keeper of inner wisdom. When you answer the hermit's call, solitude begins to shift from emptiness into a journey of real growth. In that space, you find the answers that the noise of the world has buried. You allow yourself to feel, to think, to reflect without being rushed, and your soul begins to mend. You start recognizing patterns, integrating your shadows, and uncovering parts of yourself that have long lain dormant. Beyond that, you begin cultivating a quiet inner strength, a steady confidence rooted not in external praise, but in self-knowing. For many, this path feels difficult because the world outside celebrates constant motion, networking, visibility, activity. But the hermit offers a different reminder. To truly show up for others, you must first show up for yourself. That is the wisdom at the heart of solitude. So when you turn down a visit, when you choose your own company, you are not shutting the world out. You are preparing inwardly to re-enter it later. More genuine, more grounded, more fully yourself. First with yourself and then with others. The hermit extends this invitation toward deep transformation. And if you feel that inner pull, you are already on the right path. Now that you've become acquainted with the hermit within you, an important question arises. How do you find equilibrium between the longing for solitude and the need for genuine connection? Jung taught that a whole life does not mean rejecting the social or retreating into complete isolation, but rather building a conscious relationship between both. The hermit calls for silence, withdrawal, introspection. The outer world asks for engagement, presence, participation. The art lies in respecting your boundaries without sealing yourself off entirely, and in not pushing yourself into social situations when you are not inwardly prepared. It is a daily practice of listening to yourself and communicating honestly with others. You can build rituals that guard your quiet, time set aside for reading, a solitary walk, a morning routine that belongs only to you. At the same time, you can choose intentional moments to be with people who genuinely nourish you, who respect the space you need. This balance doesn't come naturally at first, but it is deeply freeing. And most importantly, it requires no justification. You owe no explanation to anyone but yourself. The world may not always understand, but your soul knows exactly what it needs. Jung said, individuation means remaining true to yourself even when the world demands otherwise. So give yourself permission to walk this path. Honor the hermit within you, and alongside that, cultivate real connections, the kind that replenish rather than deplete. Then solitude no longer feels like a burden, but a sacred space of renewal. We understand that holding this balance is no simple thing. The world is loud, full of expectations, and an inner critic can make you feel guilty simply for wanting to be alone. But honoring your boundaries is not selfishness. It is a profound act of self-love and genuine care. Begin by learning to recognize your body's signals. Are you physically tired? Is your mind scattered and restless? Is your mood fraying at the edges? These are signs that your inner system needs recovery. When you notice them, allow yourself to slow down, even if that means rescheduling plans or stepping away from your phone. Next, practice communicating clearly. You don't need to justify or over-explain. Something simple like, I'm staying in tonight, I need some time to myself, is entirely sufficient. Those who truly care for you will understand. Those who don't, well, that tells you something too. Then, create a space that feels sacred to you. It might be a favorite corner of your home, a cherished spot in nature, or a quiet morning ritual that is entirely yours. There, you reconnect with your deepest self. There, your inner hermit feels safe and at home. And finally, extend gentleness to yourself. You are not required to always be functioning at full capacity or socially available. You are allowed to simply be with yourself. Honoring your desire for solitude means honoring your soul. It is the path toward becoming whole, precisely as Carl Jung taught. Perhaps now, as this journey draws to a close, you sense that something inside you has been gently touched, something quiet and true. And that is the deep beauty of Jung's work. The radical honoring of each soul's uniqueness. There is no correct or incorrect way to be. There is only your way. And if your way means staying home, keeping the door closed, choosing stillness over company, that does not make you peculiar or less worthy of love. Jung reminds us that individuation, the process of becoming whole, also means embracing every part of ourselves, including those parts society doesn't always celebrate. So when you honor your longing to withdraw, you are recognizing an essential dimension of your soul. You don't need to reshape yourself to fit any mold in order to find happiness. Your home, your silence, your solitude, these are sacred spaces where your soul restores itself and continues to grow. It is there, in that intimate stillness, that you will find the strength to meet the world entirely on your own terms, with authenticity and with a deep, abiding peace. If there is one thing to carry with you from today, let it be this. Your way of existing in the world is valid. Your love of silence is a genuine expression of your soul, and it deserves respect. Above all, from yourself. We have arrived at the end of this journey together, though in truth, yours is only just beginning. We have moved through 6 truths from Carl Jung, encountered the archetype of the hermit, and discovered how solitude can become a wellspring of deep inner wisdom. Now I invite you to turn inward with kindness, to recognize that your desire to be alone is not a weakness, but the mark of a rich and meaningful inner life, that your limits are not walls of selfishness, but genuine expressions of self-care, and that right there, in the quiet of your own space, you hold everything you need to grow each day into a little more of who you truly are.